Welcome to Conversations for College Success. I'm here with Nicole Swinteck, and we're going to talk about her experience as it relates to college and next steps upon graduation. So let's start with, what college did you select and why?
Sure. I went to the University of Toledo, and I went there because they were the only college that accepted me.
And why is that?
Well, I had terrible grades in high school. 1.4 was my GPA, and I applied to a couple other colleges, but Toledo was the only one that accepted me.
And then you seem to have done well because you were able to graduate through Toledo. Now, give us a little bit of that back history.
Yes. So Toledo offered a number of supports for me. When I got to school, I obviously realized it was challenging. I can remember when my first writings was marked up with so many misspellings, so many grammar things, little things. And the teacher was like, wow, you should actually go back a couple of classes. And I knew I didn't want to take all these classes that I had taken in high school. And so I searched and I thought, where are the supports? So they had writing labs, math labs, reading labs, they had everything available. And so after that point on, there wasn't a single paper or assignment I didn't turn in without bringing it to the lab and getting those supports for myself.
Thank you so much for that, because students are so hesitant to go to the writing lab, and it's such a huge asset. I can remember when students would bring me their papers, I would read it out loud and they'd start looking funny. I'm like, does it sound like, yeah, that's exactly what only reading what you wrote. And it wasn't, like you said, either punctuation or the right word or whatever that was. And it wasn't meant to be mean.
No.
It was meant to say, this is what you're submitting.
Mhm.
You should, if you didn't read it aloud, I'll read it aloud to you. And so now you'll see, I don't have to mark anything up. You'll see some of the things you need to do. Going forward, they started going to the writing lab as well.
Right.
Thank you for that. That is really a huge suggestion for college students. Okay, now I think besides Toledo, you took a stop at John Carroll and then you went back.
I did. My mom worked at John Carroll, and the tuition was free. Plus, I wanted to play for their softball team.
Oh, nice.
So I went there for almost a year. And then I went back to Toledo. I ended up graduating from Toledo with cum laude and getting almost a 4.0. And it was just a really great experience.
Well, congratulations. And keynote to all of my listeners as well as subscribers, please know that when you go to college, there are other areas, I will call them support areas, that can help you. She mentioned a writing lab, a math lab. I'm sure there's others as well. Make sure you're aware of the tools and assistance that's available to you for free at college.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now, what was your degree in?
Education, early childhood education.
And then you also got a master's.
I did. I got my master's from the University of Arizona, and that was in language, reading, and culture.
Okay. And both of those have afforded you, because where were you working?
I taught kindergarten and on the Catalina Foothills. It's in Tucson, Arizona. And that was a beautiful experience. I love those kids and parents, and the school district was great. Then I worked for an RV resort, and it was actually for one of my kindergarten families. They owned it.
Okay.
And then I worked for the University of Arizona for 10 years.
Oh, wow. That's a long time. What did you do there?
So I was the program coordinator for the Department of Immunobiology. So
That's a mouthful.
I help support their programs. So their PhD program, their master's program, certificate program, things like that.
Now, was that before or after you got your master's?
That was after.
Okay, very good. But you were familiar by that time with those different programs. All right, that's very, very helpful. What made you decide to get your master's?
Yeah, so I actually wanted to move out to Arizona, and there was this job that I really liked, but you had to have your master's, and because it was through the University of Arizona, so they would let you work on it while you're there. And they had, I cannot say enough great things about the University of Arizona. They have so many great resources there too. But they basically let me work there, live there, gave me stipends, and paid for my schooling. Just another really great experience where I got lots of support from them. their Disability Resource Center kicked in as well. At that point, I found out I had a disability, intellectual disability, and it just really supported me. So,
Well, that's phenomenal. And that's a shout out to master's degree programs, but also the fact there's support there too. If there's a job that you're interested in or think that you'd be the best at, reach out and see if there's a way for you to be able to do that and complete your master's at the same time. These are all phenomenal sets of information for students. One, just because you're not necessarily doing well in high school doesn't mean you won't do well in college. A lot of it depends on what's the support systems around you. So if you're looking to go to college, make sure you also look at what support systems are available at that college for students. So thank you so much for that. That's really critical information. Now, had you done any internships while you were either in college or during graduate school?
yes, in undergrad and in graduate school. And that was what I would say was the best part about my education program. Getting that hands-on experience in undergrad, I got a variety, both, but I got a variety of experiences, both in the classroom and out of the classroom, and not so traditional experiences for teaching. So we had to do home visits, which is not your typical thing.
That's
And
correct.
I learned so many things from those families and what they needed from the education system that really made me a better educator.
You think that will move you towards getting into what I call administration by that experience and the learning that took place?
Yes, so I actually completed my principal and superintendent certificate 2 years ago, I want to say. So 2021. And yes, it did. And part of it was I didn't feel like I had enough pull as a teacher. I couldn't make the changes I wanted to for these families and these kids. And I thought that by doing the principal and superintendent certificate, I would be able to make a bigger change. I have not entered those fields yet in my career yet, but I know that the people in those jobs are certainly doing their best to make a positive impact.
But you will. You care about students. Those are the kinds of teachers as well as administrators that we need. So many students just need additional support or a kind word instead of being treated as if they don't know anything. Unfortunately, because students, even young adults, are so impressionable, the wrong comments can send students down the wrong path. And just that one right supportive comment or one possible teacher, administrator who believes in you can make a huge difference in terms of the success of a student. And then, of course, they will credit that person for the rest of their lives because it's a turning point for them. It's absolutely a turning point for them. Now, having been through both your undergraduate and graduate degree, what I'm trying to think of, what are some critical things that students should be aware of in attending both undergrad and graduate school?
Well, speaking from my experience, and this may not be true for everyone, but from my experience, the level of rigor and work was way harder when going to get my master's. So I needed additional supports. Right after the first week, I could tell I wasn't able to keep up with the readings and whatnot. So I actually found myself in the Disability Resource Center asking for support. They ended up testing me and we found out I do have a learning disability. And that was, you know, a huge, huge help. Um, but I would say for undergrad, just really diving in and just getting to know your college inside and out. So, you know, enlisting in those programs, finding something social and having that balance, right? So you're kind of sticking your hands in everything and really finding your footwork, your footing, and building a really great foundation for yourself because it gets really really hard. There will be really tough times, and that is the norm. And that's a reflection of what life is like in grad school and life is like after. And so this is all really good practice. And in undergrad, if you've done your due diligence and you've set up those support systems for yourself that are available, you'll have that help.
I appreciate that. There are so many things that you've packed into your comments. In terms of undergrad, know what resources are available to you. And if you don't know, ask. What I've oftentimes shared with students is you need to find at least one person on campus that you can talk to. It can be a professor, it could be a staff person, but someone where, as things are going on that you may need support or information about, you can go to them and ask. And by them being associated with the university, if they don't already know the answer, they can find it quicker than you can. And they won't go through as many people as you would have to go through to get that answer. So that's fabulous. And then my suggestion as it relates to grad school, and I don't know if you went directly from undergrad to grad school, I usually suggest that students take a moment, if they have not done co-ops and internships, to work in their field. You need to make sure that it's the field that you want to get into. I've only had one, but one is more than enough. But the student didn't finish because by the time they realized that that's not what they wanted to do, and it was a 4+1, they never finished the second semester. And so again, that money is still owed whether you complete it or not. So knowing what works best for you is critical. Knowing what you enjoy is also just as critical. And then other students have shared making sure that you put a study program together, a schedule, those kinds of things, so that you have your study time, so that you can prepare for exams and papers and those kinds of things. So are there any final comments or points that you would like to make or share with our listeners?
I'll just piggyback on what you just said. I do think it's important. I did not take time off going from undergrad to grad school, but I can absolutely see the benefit. And I think that would have served me to really have that real life experience going into my master's. Although I did have those internships, it's still different once you get out there and you're really on your own. So I just want to say I absolutely agree with that.
Well, I appreciate that. And I would like to thank Miss Nicole Swinteck. And again, this is Conversations for College Success. And if you're not already a subscriber, please do so. And should you have any questions, do not hesitate to send them to conversationsforcollegesuccess@hotmail.com. Have a great day. Bye-bye.